let's go ahead and start this.
It's gonna shit on my desk.
Alright, so we are live, and welcome to Humane Mind Live, episode 97, Kava-nah 2, Return of Pen15Hand. Dude, this is ridiculous, because this has just been going around the last couple of days. I thought that this story would blow over, and yet it's been going in the news for about 3 days now, for no good reason.
No, that's exactly why. For no good reason.
Ugh.
There is a reason, but it's not a good one.
Yeah. So, for those who aren't aware, like a year ago, Kavanaugh's name was dragged through the mud as he was being nominated for the Supreme Court. Various smear campaigns, including Christina Blasey Ford. Is it Christine Blasey Ford or Christina? I think it's Christine. Yeah. Christine Blasey Ford, or Blasey Ford. Yeah, whatever.
Or Blase, or I've heard 10 different pronunciations. Yeah. Whatever.
And then there was also the Kelly Swetnick, who made claims about being involved in multiple orgies, and this is going on, and I went back to these parties. That was all. There was a third going on at the same time, a report or a rumor that Kavanaugh had taken his pants off and had put his penis in a woman's face at a dorm party. And I don't remember. I'm trying to remember the details of that, because I remember that incident, something about his penis being put in a lady's hand, and I was like, so when I first heard stories of like, didn't we cover this a year ago? How is this being brought up as new news? And I'm like, that was the third one, right? There was three rumors. That was one of the three that was debunked as total nonsense. But apparently, this one is a completely different incident of Kavanaugh having his pants down at a party and having his penis in a different woman's hand. So...
I'm trying to look up what the third accuser's name was.
Yeah, because the previous one, the lady's name in the incident, or the supposed victim in the incident, they gave her name during the Kavanaugh hearings and all that sort of thing. Her name was out there as, having been at a party where Kavanaugh's penis was involved in something.
But do you remember what her name was?
Don't remember. Swetnick was the funny one, because I was all, like, just talking about, like, gang rape orgies.
Yeah, she didn't even go to school with them.
No.
None of what she said made any sense at all.
Yeah, but she felt it was true because she didn't want Kavanaugh to be a justice.
Man, I can't remember her name. I thought it was like Roberta or Maria. Anyway, her account was that she thought it was Kavanaugh, but couldn't 100% verify. It was fuzzy. And then later she couldn't make up her mind if that happened or if someone had like a fake,
yeah, if it was a fake penis or not.
Yeah, like, I guess, I don't know, can you say dildo on here? I guess I just did.
You just did, yeah. Yeah, whether it was a dildo or whether it was his actual penis or something like that.
She kind of shut up for a while and had to go talk to her lawyer for a week before finally realizing what happened, because everything was so fuzzy she couldn't even remember if it was him or not at first. She thought it was, which is why she said something. So she had to go consult her lawyer for about a week to get her story straight.
Yeah. And then...
So this was a separate issue.
Yeah.
And it was actually reported to the FBI a year ago.
Yes.
They didn't investigate it because it's baloney. There's nothing to investigate.
The other thing is, so this is a fourth incident, so separate from the other incident of the maybe fake penis one. And the victim claims doesn't remember. Like, yeah, doesn't have any recollection of the event. The person recalling the event is a lawyer. I forget the guy's name. I had it pulled up earlier. Mark Steyer, I think? Or maybe it's Matt Steyer? I have to look that up, so that way I'm not...
Steyer? Yeah, I can't remember his name either. Steyer. S-T-I-E-R.
Matt Steyer or Mark Steyer? Yeah.
It just says Mr. Steyer.
Oh, Max Steyer. So,
Yep, there it is.
Max Steyer is a lawyer. He's the one claiming that this incident happened.
Actually, no, he's not.
He's not?
No. The New York Times, in their story, said 2 officials who talked with Mr. Steyer, he told them, and so they are conveying the story. He is refusing to go on state testimony.
Okay, so he's the source of the story, but he's not even gonna testify.
Correct. Not on record saying that. So it's 2 other people who heard from the guy who was at the party, who saw another guy who saw the victim. And the victim's like, I don't remember that ever happening.
Yeah. So the victim is not going on record, not claiming anything. Her friends say that she doesn't remember anything, she doesn't know anything about this. Max Steyer is the source of this news story, where Kavanaugh was at a party allegedly, pulled down his pants at this party. Some other man grabbed Kavanaugh's penis and placed it into this alleged victim's hand. And as a lot of people have been pointing out, it was like, wait a minute, that kind of makes Kavanaugh a victim and this other lady a victim, and the guy who did the penis grabbing and that guy's would be the perpetrator in this incident. Although Kavanaugh pulling down his pants, that's something, but I don't know what that exactly would be. I was like, because I mean it's a frat party, guys in their boxer shorts or in swim shorts, kind of like there's toga parties where you're, the things aren't hanging out, but it's kind of
There's a lot of things that could happen at those parties.
Yeah.
It could have either been accidental, someone saw it, he didn't realize, again, depending on whatever the party was, were they in costume. Nobody remembers any of this.
Yeah.
So it could have been somehow accidental. Somebody saw him, pushed him, if this incident even happened in the first place, and there happened to be a girl sitting there. But I'm thinking if some dude's junk randomly got pushed into your face or on your hand, you'd remember that.
Yeah. Even if you were drunk at a party, you're like, dude, that was messed up.
Yeah.
And you would think
Even
Kavanaugh would.
thought it was funny, even if she didn't feel victimized and just thought it was a stupid frat prank.
Yeah.
She remembered something like that, but she has no recollection.
And Kavanaugh would be a victim in this incident. He'd be like, yeah, dude, some guy grabbed my junk and threw it at this lady. Nothing I could do about it. Like, I wasn't expecting him to touch my stuff.
Or it did happen exactly as the story was stated, where for some reason he had too much to drink, pulled his junk out, but then somebody else still pushed him into that situation, and got her involved, and when it had nothing to do with her. Either way, the whole story, ludicrous.
So,
and nobody that may or may not have been directly involved is going on record saying anything.
Yeah. Here's the other side of this. This Max Steyer guy, he's the lawyer who arranged for Bill Clinton to pay off, what's her name? What?
Jones?
Yeah, Paula Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the same lawyer that arranged all of that. And you're like, wait a minute. The same lawyer... So Bill Clinton has an affair with this Paula Jones lady. Paula Jones is accusing him of more than just an affair, of actual sexual misconduct. I don't know if it quite the details are sealed, so whether it was harassment or whether it was, full-on rape or something like that, we don't know the details. We do know that she got a very large settlement out of this, and the guy who arranged the settlement is Max Steyer, and now Max Steyer is the one making this claim against, the current claim, the source of the current claim against Kavanaugh. I'm just like, wait a minute. Something's rotten in Denmark.
Yep. So the dumb thing is, this was all reported to the FBI a year ago during the whole investigation. This was already known, and the reason that they did not investigate is the exact same reasons we're discussing here. There is no victim when the victim says, I don't remember that ever happening.
Yeah.
I'm not going to testify. I have nothing to do with this. Leave me out. So there is no victim. What are they going to investigate? And nobody else can confirm anything other than the Max Steyer guy. But he's also not going on record stating anything. This was all reported from 2 officials, I think from the New York Times, that said they spoke with him.
Yeah. Okay, so the 2 people from the New York Times, they wrote a book, and this was part of that book. And then they get an article in the New York Times talking about the book and some of the things that the book is revealing. These are things that were well known. It's just these things are now being more publicly known. These things came out, like you said, these were reported to the FBI a year ago. Everybody, this happened. This was investigated during the Kavanaugh's nomination, or what's the confirmation?
Confirmation.
Yeah, during his confirmation, all this came to light and it was looked into, and like, yeah, there's a big nothing. These ladies are releasing a book about it, and this is one of the things in the book, because it's something that was knowledge. It was information that was available to the people involved in the Kavanaugh confirmation, but it wasn't necessarily made public. It wasn't something that was broadcast at the time. So these ladies are bringing it to light as if it's fresh new evidence or something new that needs to be looked into. But the big reason this is a controversy is because the fact that the alleged victim claims no knowledge of it was left out of the original article. And it was up for more than a day, and then the next day when people are like, wait a minute, what's going on here? The book says so itself that the victim claims no knowledge of the incident, and her friend, or the victim isn't testifying and won't, and their friends, the friends of the victim, are saying that she doesn't know anything about it. She doesn't remember the event. So then they, actually, as you say that, I'm not sure if it was the New York Times. Was it the Washington Post?
The New York Times is the one that the book is coming from.
Okay, so yeah, so it was the New York Times. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So the New York Times printed a little blurb that, oh, by the way, the supposed victim claims no knowledge of this, and friends say that she doesn't know anything about it. And they printed that after the fact, and then, but too late. This has already been making the news rounds, and people have been talking about it for 2 days now. And I'm talking about it here, and I'm like, dude, this is.
Yeah.
It all started with. Yeah.
About the book, made it seem like there was new evidence.
Yeah.
That was never discussed publicly, and they very specifically made it sound like a new accusation had been brought forward that was never investigated, and the FBI did nothing on it. That's the way they made it look. And 24 hours later, they post, yeah, this was already in our book, and the accuser doesn't know anything.
Well,
friends say they don't know anything about the incident.
Well,
so what is there for the FBI to investigate?
Nothing, but the 2 ladies who wrote the book went on a different interview, and they were talking about how the excerpt where it talks about the victim not coming forward, not wanting to make a statement, and the friends claiming she has no knowledge of the event, that was in their original article, and it was removed by the editor. So, yeah.
Somebody at the New York Times is doing I don't know what this isn't journalism.
Yeah.
This is a smear campaign.
Yeah. And AOC and a lot of the other Democrats are jumping on board. So a number of the Democratic presidential candidates jumped on this immediately and started talking about, well, we need to impeach Kavanaugh. And I'm like, ugh.
Yeah. Kamala Harris, Buttigieg, Warren,
Beto,
AOC, even though she's not a presidential candidate.
But,
they're all screaming that this is an injustice and men like him shouldn't be on the Supreme Court. We need to have fair and balanced Supreme Court justices. But they're basing this, saying this is now the 4th accusation that has come forward. That is their claim. ABC just did a press release. When did they come out with that? Basically, they're one of the first major news, or not ABC, CBS, one of the first major news networks to come out and say all 4 people that were supposed to have been at the original party from Christine Blasey Ford now deny that party ever having happened.
Yeah. Oh, that was the other big news. Is the what was her name?
Leland Kaiser.
Kaiser. Yeah. Yeah. So Blasey Ford, her best friend at the time, they still apparently have a good cordial relationship or a friendly relationship. during the Kavanaugh hearings a year ago, she was claiming that she didn't remember the event, but she believed her friend. Now it's coming to light that she doubts Blasey's story altogether, and at the time of the Kavanaugh hearing, she was being pressured to support Ford.
Yeah, by Ford's legal team.
Yeah.
And
So
I think one of the news outlets, they were trying to blackmail her and say, you need to go along with this or we're going to release information that's going to destroy you.
yeah. So at the time,
her to state things that she was not aware of.
Yeah. So at the time, she just said, "I don't remember it, but I trust my friend." And then now she's like, "Yeah, the more I think about this, yeah, that party never happened, and this whole story is full of holes and doesn't make any sense."
Yeah. She's saying we never really attended parties like that. That's not really what we did. I would have remembered something like that. The whole situation makes no sense. If we were the only two girls there, how would she have left? If we were at some party, I probably drove, and I don't remember any of that.
Yeah.
So just none of it makes sense. But the left Democrats, the ones claiming impeachment, are still saying that that's a valid accusation. Are still saying that crazy gang rape lady was still a valid accusation, even though her lawyer is facing jail.
Yeah.
And everyone's just like, really? You went to 10 gang rape parties? Are you the stupidest person on the planet? And it was found out he's got previous history of making false sexual harassment claims. Tried to get a boss fired at work. Yeah,
and that's why the Max Steyer thing is it's like, wait a minute. So it seemed like all of the representatives for these individuals, they're all really corrupt lawyers. They've got a history of being corrupt or doing things that are underhanded and shady.
And they're all tied in with the left, with Democrats.
Yeah. And here's the other thing. So I saw this on Tim Pool's channel. Something Katz. I don't remember her first name. The lawyer who represented Ford. Something Katz.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she was at a conference where she was talking about this incident. So during the Kavanaugh hearing, she was saying that her client wasn't being influenced by politics or anything like this. It was all about justice and making sure that her clients the assault or alleged incident with their client was, that justice was had for it. Although they weren't seeking trial against him, they were just seeking that he never got the Supreme Court nomination. And then in a conference that she was at, I don't remember the exact time frame, but it was in the last couple of months. Now she's saying, oh yeah, it was definitely influenced by her politics.
I thought it was very shortly after the confirmation, like a month or something.
Yeah.
I remember hearing about that a while ago.
Yeah, so this was after the confirmation hearing, because during the confirmation hearing, there's no political involved. This is completely this not influencing our decision here. And then after the fact, and then she said, oh yeah, this is definitely because of there was definitely a political angle there.
One of the factors that pushed this whole the whole confirmation trial thing. And she said, and in some way we were a success because we smeared his name and specifically brought up Roe versus Wade, and they did this partially as a tactic. So if he tries to go take or oppose Roe versus Wade, everyone's going to see who did it, and they're going to know what kind of man he is.
Which is, this has been brought up as well by other people, but this is one of those things we need to hammer home. Kavanaugh has gone on record saying the courts is not the place to tackle that. The courts is not the place to go against Roe v. Wade. He is going to rule in favor with previous Supreme Court decisions on Roe v. Wade. Because in the court, it's called precedent. When there's a precedent, you go off of previous rulings. That's the way judges typically operate. And he's like, if the Supreme Court ruled one way, just because I'm in the Supreme Court now, even if it might conflict with my personal beliefs, I'm going to continue to rule the way this, along those lines. And he specifically said the way to tackle this is not in the courts. It's not in the Supreme Court. It's not his job to tackle this. It is with a law drafted by Congress. So these morons were like, oh, he's going to repeal Roe v. Wade. And I'm like, if a court case... Well, I think he's already had an opportunity right? There was a court case that came before the Supreme Court where he was on the bench, if I'm not mistaken. That could have been, like, he could have voted against it, and instead...
Now, the precedent thing I do agree with, because it makes our laws uniform. It says, this is what we understand the Constitution to mean, and we need to keep that continuity through our judicial decisions. So he seems to be just a pure constitutionalist, and wants to read it as is. Let's interpret it as its original intent, and then let's keep that precedent. And so he's following suit. That's exactly right. The only thing that could change that is new legislation.
Yep.
At which point it'll probably go back to the court, or as medical technology increases, if we get to the point where we can consistently have premature births at, right at the 1 month mark delivered, and it's almost 100%, and say, yeah, babies at that point are simply just growing. They're developed, they're now feasible outside the womb, and we now have better medical understanding. And now we've got cases going back, lawsuits that end up going back to the Supreme Court, and they have to reevaluate, not based off the Constitution, but based off medical understanding. But that's something that's still a ways off. Technology has gotten a lot better since Roe versus Wade, but we need to have a definitive, this is viable life now outside the womb at this point. And they're going to have lawsuits that come up. People saying, hey, I was told that it's just a fetus and aborted, and then now I'm finding out that something along those lines. It's going to have to be contested with serious scientific backing showing, these are viable human lives. Because that's basically what they premised Roe versus Wade off of, is that the first trimester they figured it as just a small clump of cells. Second trimester, it's partially formed, and so third trimester, that's why they said, it's perfectly legal for the first. The second one, I don't know, they had stipulations, but the third one would just be based off of the state laws, whatever they decide for third trimester. But that's why they split it up into 3 groups. It's just based off current medical understanding.
Yeah, and so while you were talking, I was looking this up, because, so he's had 2 opportunities already.
So, he's not going to buck. He's not going to buck the system like that. He's not that kind of guy. He's there to uphold what our laws are and what our current standards are. And that's what everybody's been saying since the beginning, is that, what's everyone whining about? Yeah. He's just here to make sure things are constitutional and to uphold our Constitution. That's it. That's all we need as a Supreme Court justice. Not some biased person that's trying to dictate laws.
Yeah, and so before I go any further, I'm going to pull this up on
But additionally, I mean, that's pretty disgusting. That whole Blasey Ford smear campaign is something outside of our judicial system. Those nominees are supposed to be elected by the president, as they've always been since the beginning of the Supreme Court. That's who elects the Supreme Court nominees, and then that's why the Congress gets together and evaluates them, which has already been evaluated in the FBI background check like 6 times. That's why there's this entire process. This is outside the general public's realm. It's the elected officials trying to make sure we have the best of the best at the top, but just some random person coming up and making a smear campaign and trying to delay things because they have an idealistic view and they're trying to protect, one bill, one piece of legislation, Roe versus Wade. That's the disgusting misuse of our system.
Yeah. So, it says right here, in May, the Supreme Court decision on an abortion case became the second time expectations about Kavanaugh have not been met. And then,
I don't understand what expectations were. Who on either side thought, let's get this guy in the first weekend, Roe versus Wade is going down? Who thought that? If that was your initial impression, you obviously don't understand how the Supreme Court works.
Yeah. So, and this should have been handled in Congress. Whenever this went to the Supreme Court, that's when Congress should have been like, okay, looks like this is something that or the existing laws aren't very clear on, and we need to make a decision one way or the other and make that federal law. Because right now we've got states that are going back and forth on this, and it's, this is something that needs to be standardized. But they didn't at the time, and they left it up to the Supreme Court, made the ruling, let the Supreme Court make the rulings for them, and then they haven't touched it again. And it's like, that's not how laws are supposed to be made. The Supreme Court is not supposed to dictate what the laws are. It is supposed to look at whether existing laws are constitutional or not and veto them that way. But it's not supposed to adopt new laws, which is what Roe v. Wade actually it created a new law that was not in the Constitution to begin with.
Yeah, the way it should have happened is when that got brought before Roe v. Wade, before the Supreme Court, if they couldn't come to a determined answer and say, is it constitutional or not? Because, at that time, they weren't really quite sure on the entire birthing development. They didn't know at what stage it becomes viable outside the womb.
Yeah.
And back then, if a preemie was at 7 months, their chance of succeeding at birth and living past that was a bit low. We just didn't have the medical technology. Yeah, so they should have said, we can't determine if this is constitutional or not. We don't have enough science or evidence. You guys can make laws at here and here, but once it's determined that this is a viable human being, then it becomes unconstitutional. So they can review the laws later, but the judicial system is just there to say whether it's constitutional or not. If they couldn't come to an agreement, then each state should make their laws, or if this becomes a congressional issue, then Congress should have passed the laws, and then that would have been up to them, and then it becomes a per state issue, or the way it should have been.
And the other thing about that is what the Supreme Court's decision was, it didn't actually make abortion legal in all cases. What their actual decision was is that you cannot have laws requiring that rape be proven in order for an abortion to be performed. Because they said that was a violation of the individual's privacy, which doesn't make any sense considering
Roe v. Wade was the privacy on rape issue.
Yeah.
It wasn't about just legal abortion for no reason.
But that doesn't make any sense because the facility performing the abortion is a medical center that has access to a person's medical records, which a rape would be in. Like a police report, a rape kit is performed by medical professionals. It's one of those things that doesn't make any sense.
Even in that instance, right?
Yeah.
Let's say a woman is raped and she can't live with the fact of, being pregnant from the rape, and it's early on, it's only been a couple of weeks, and so she goes, gets a rape test, and they say, it looks like there are signs of it. You would qualify here to where we're okay, this isn't going to be considered illegal. Those are still private records. It's not like a newspaper or some journalist can pop up and say, hey, was that a rape? The only way that information is going to be released, which is part of the medical privacy stuff, or even if she went to see a therapist first, they are under law where these records are locked down. Yeah. It is private. It's entirely private. Yeah, the only reason that this information is discussed to their personal doctor is to make that final decision. So the whole privacy thing doesn't make sense because we had those privacy laws. Yeah.
And the other thing is, in the case of Roe v. Wade, which one was Wade? Oh, wait, so Roe, the alias of I think it was like Jane Roe was the alias she was going under. I forget the name of the actual lady, but after initiating the trial, wanted no part to do with it, had her child, and became a staunch anti-abortion activist. But that's regardless. The reason this whole thing went to court was because she did not have the rape, or she was not raped and wanted an abortion. So it's kind of like, wait, how is this a violation of privacy if you can go through their records and see no sign of rape? But it's not an invasion of privacy to see what's not there. like like as a medical facility, they would be like, hey, we need your medical records to prove that you were raped. And she's like, oh, nope, I don't want to show you that. Okay, then we can't perform the abortion. That's not a violation of your privacy to say that, oh, we can't do that because you don't have proof of this, or you won't give us access. If there is one, you won't give us access to it. That's well, okay. In what instance is someone's privacy violated in that scenario? I don't understand. The Supreme Court ruling was off on that. But.
Yeah, they left it so open-ended that it has now been interpreted as all abortions are protected under this ruling, and so states shouldn't be able to pass legislation saying no, you have to confine that to the first trimester, and anything after that, we're making that illegal unless it's a health issue for the mom. And a lot of states are trying to push that legislation now, but they're claiming it's unconstitutional and they can't because Roe v. Wade does give some leniency during the second trimester, and there are certain exceptions that they put in the third trimester, but they didn't even know what they were talking about when they put that 3-trimester ruling.
Yeah.
We did not have the medical expertise and the technology to say at what point are they consistently viable. I mean, now I think after 28 weeks or something, they have like a 90-something percent.
Yeah, it's 25 is like 90s or 90-something percent, and even as early as 21 weeks, we're still seeing somewhere around 70 to 80%. So
yeah. And back then, that was not the case. They were not that successful with premature babies. The medical technology was still building very heavily here in the U.S. So ultimately, if it came down to the privacy issue, we're both pro-life.
Yeah.
If you don't want the baby, yeah, I'm sorry, 9 months, and then at least give it up for adoption. Somebody wants that baby. I don't think ending human life should just be, I just figured I'd do it because I want to go out and have some more fun in my younger years, which is the case for most abortions. They just don't want to deal with consequences. Regardless of reasoning, human life should be taken as this is our primary objective. That's the reason we have the Constitution. It's the reason we have government, is to protect human life, protect our citizens. So the privacy thing, yes, it's private. You report to your doctor, yeah, I was raped, do your rape test, and then those records are locked. Only you and your doctor know about that. That's not released to your family. It's not released to anybody else. And the only way it would be released, just to verify, is if there's suspicion that doctors are doing illegal procedures, at which point someone gets subpoena, and only that select group in the court, not the public.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is names would be redacted.
Names are redacted. Everything is redacted if anything's related to the public to protect privacy.
Yeah.
But within that court hearing, then people can say, yeah, they've been doing illegal abortion. That would be the only time, and only to that small group of people trying to decide, has a law been broken.
And it would be descriptions of the event, but the individual involved would be not known to the members of the court. So how is it an invasion of privacy? It's only an invasion of privacy when the event and the identity of the individual involved are combined. Then it becomes privacy matter. Yeah. Like, unless it's something so obvious, like if they started talking about, well, we're not going to mention the individual's name, but Trump Incorporated was involved in some kind. Like, they're obviously talking about Donald Trump. That's if there was something obvious like that, like this person had $1 billion in holdings. There's only so many billionaires in the world. I wonder who they're talking about.
I mean, the whole downside to that is that this country, as a society, used to view human life as more of a priority for us.
Yeah.
We wanted to preserve human life as much as possible. And because people have manipulated the determination of the Supreme Court and Roe versus Wade, now, even Hillary was quoted back in the 90s, it should be available. What was her phrasing?
For what?
For abortion, safe,
legal, and rare.
Legal and rare. So even on the Democrat and progressive side, they still had this view that it should still be rare. It's not something that we're up to 1 million abortions per year. but has now gone past that. They've now morphed it into women's rights and women's health, stating that it's due to mental health and financial health. Garbage like that. So you have a right to terminate another human life because they're going to impact your finances and your social well-being.
All right.
I mean,
so
that's slippery slope, but regardless, with the way the Supreme Court's ruling was and the way it's currently set up, Kavanaugh could not have been stuck in there just to tear that down single-handedly. Oh, we have a one-guy majority that's disappearing in a week. That was never going to happen.
Nope.
He never said that was going to happen. But they still couldn't take it, and so they decided to smear this guy over nothing. And they're still claiming that there's multiple accusations, and there's tons of evidence that none of this ever happened out of any of those accusations, and they're still running with it. It's disgusting.
Well,
okay, that's my last comment on that.
I'm like, time to move on to the next topic. But, because that's just what was in the news today, so I'll hopefully go a little quicker on the next few stories here. But speaking of, them... dang it. Trying to play off of what you just said, but the words are escaping me. But, so this is I guess maybe this is a little bit of invasion of privacy combined with the evil or disgusting behavior of those on the left. I guess that's enough of a cue up for this. So this clip... So, there are people on the left who... pretty staunch leftists, who are now realizing, maybe the left isn't so, as I guess, that's a good way of phrasing it. They aren't as virtuous as they claim to be.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Xbox. See, I got a little excited there. I was like, ooh, I can cast it to the stream, but no, that's somebody's Xbox One that, for some reason, is showing up as a castable thing. So, I guess maybe somebody's connected to the Wi-Fi, and, Alright. So, did I send you that video clip in the Hangout? Not.
I don't see any links in the
there
message.
you go. So, Marianne Williamson, not really in the running anymore because they kicked her off of the most recent debate stage along with Tulsi Gabbard. But she was caught on a hot mic on September 12th, and this is what she had to say.
What does it say? That the conservatives are nicer to me?
It's a bizarre world, man.
It's such a bizarre world. I'm such a lefty. I mean, I'm a serious lefty. I understand why people on the right call them godless. I mean, it's like, I didn't think the left was as mean as the right. They are.
Well,
Now, I don't mean to be that guy. I really don't.
But I'm not gonna play all of the Amazing Lucas's. Because I know you've mentioned him before, and apparently I am subscribed to him, and I've seen videos from him before, but I just wanted to show that Marianne Williamson clip, because that kind of was making the rounds. Is like, yeah, duh, welcome to reality. Took you long enough. Well, I mean, I guess she's not totally in reality. But she's getting there. I guess it took running for president to be kind of a slap in the face. I'm like, oh, yeah, you guys aren't the moral bastions of goodness and virtue that you claim to be. Hopefully that gets people to like, oh, wait a minute. It's not the we're all good and they're evil. It's not the dark psychic forces that you claim. So...
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's because they're very... You either follow everything to the T or you're kicked out of the group.
Mm-hmm. And it takes being on the fringe and having that come and smack you in the face for you to wake up. And it looks like Marianne Williamson is getting her first taste of that, what would be called the red pill, right? And it was, we've seen similar instances like Candace Owens. Oh, no longer Candace Owens. It's now Candace Farmer. She got married over Labor Day weekend.
Oh,
did not know. Yeah, so Candace Farmer now. But yeah, that's the story she gave. Is like, yeah, she was a leftist, and then she stepped out of line and did one of the taboos she didn't know was a taboo, and got smacked, and is like, okay, I guess I'm no longer on the left. If that's how, yeah. Complete wake-up call. And a lot of people have expressed similar stories of, yeah, they were on the left and they were like, yeah, we're the good guys, the other side is evil, and then they get one taste of the left's, of that left's venom, and they're like, wait a minute. I'm supposed to be on your guys' side. What's going on here? Maybe I've been lied to.
This is what fascism is. This is what totalitarianism is. And they are the description of that to a T.
Mm-hmm.
You will fall in line. You will goose step right along with the rest of us, or we're going to ostracize you and tear you down. This is the same mentality that led to the rise of Nazis.
Yeah.
Because they followed along. They just listened to orders and shrugged their shoulders and said, yeah, this is right. Because if you fall out of line, you're going in a camp. Your life's in jeopardy. Your family's ruined. So stay in line. There's nothing wrong with people having differences of opinions or different ideas. An atheist and a Christian can sit down and have a discussion. They may not agree on a lot, but they can have a discussion. It just people with differing opinions should be able to just sit down and talk it out. But with this progressive movement, this far left ideology, there is no talking it out. If you don't say, yeah, you're 100% right, you are the enemy. And they feel that you are attacking their ideology, and so therefore they will attack you. So I guess she's getting a little taste of that.
Yep.
I mean, good thing she's aware of it. She still seems a little loony to me, but at least she understands there's some kind of discrepancy there. It's not all, rainbows and butterflies over there. Something's a little off.
Alright, so I didn't have this one pulled up, but something you just said there. You mentioned her being loony. I was like, oh, that's a good segue into another... oh, okay, here we go. Oh, this is so stupid.
Are you posting that in the Hangout message?
Yeah, it took me a while to pull it up, but...
I don't think
there you go. It's in there. So it's the New York Times one. Alright, So, speaking of loony women, and speaking of, hey, wait a minute, this is something from years ago being dredged up again this week. So Hillary Clinton was at an art show where they did a replica of the desk from the Oval Office, and they had binders full of her emails. Now, granted, these are not the ones that were deleted. These are the ones that were not bleach bit, and these were the ones that were actually delivered to the FBI. And oh, here she is reading the emails that nobody cares about. As if this is, oh, ha ha ha. Those are the emails you guys are obsessed. No. The obsession was about the emails she deleted, the ones that had confidential information that she was sharing on a public server. Those are the emails everybody's talking about.
Yeah, I saw a picture of that. That is pathetic looking.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like so... Yeah.
That's...
Second place person 20 years later. Well, it was because of this, and I would have been the champ. Dude,
yeah, She didn't lose because she's a terrible, corrupt person. No, it's all patriarchy and obsession with emails that she's reading at the desk. It's everybody else's fault but her. And I actually think that's gonna... So this is just a little stupid... Yeah, Hillary should go away and no one should talk about her anymore. But that kind of ties into the next thing about the patriarchy and all that sort of thing. Because this was making the rounds as well last week. I think this was like going around... I think it started actually on September 10th, but I didn't cover it on the 11th, on the episode last Tuesday. But the Miss Monopoly was going around, and story behind that is it's basically Monopoly.
Now that's not was that actually from Hasbro?
Yep.
Or what?
Yeah, that was an official game. They had a commercial for it.
Is it Hasbro or Milton Bradley?
I don't remember, but I know they had a commercial for it. Parker Brothers? Who makes Monopoly? I think it might be owned by Hasbro now. I think they bought pretty much out all the competition.
Oh, Hasbro. Yeah.
Which is it's a shame because just about a month or so ago they
Parker
had the
Brothers was the original, and they got bought out.
yeah. It used to be Parker Brothers. So because it was just about a month ago that they had a parody, like blatantly labeled on the box, this is just a parody version of Socialism Monopoly. Or Monopoly Socialism Edition, and now they got this Miss Monopoly, which, I mean, I get what they're doing there, but there's a whole lot that doesn't make any sense whatsoever about this game. People have been pointing out, so that the basic rule change is that women or female players get more money at the start of the game, and they get more money for pass and go. And then instead of the typical utilities and properties, it's instead investments in famous women inventions, and one of the ones that they highlight in the ad is chocolate chip cookies, and you're like, okay, so iPhone, the internet, the computer.
Man, who was I watching? Was it a stand-up comedian that was talking about it?
I don't know.
They're like, a man invented chocolate chips. A man invented the cookie. The woman decided, oh, I think I'll combine them because I got nothing else to do at home. Chocolate chip cookies. And he's like, it seems all of the women inventions are stuff just to make their life easier. A woman invented the dishwasher.
Yeah.
This is stupid. It's patronizing to actual women that want to succeed. And yes, women inventions, there have been some great contributions to science, society from women.
Yeah, Madame Curie springs to mind.
Be pointing that out as, well, this is what women can achieve. It should just be mankind, and saying a woman could be the next inventor of the spacecraft that gets us to Mars. Why not?
Yeah.
Why are we piddling with this and saying it's man versus woman? It's not. Never has been. Yeah.
So the other thing is, in the original Monopoly, all players got the same amount of money. So, what exactly is the problem this is supposed to fix? Like, if their idea...
A reverse pay gap, I believe, is the reasoning behind that.
Yeah, but there was no existing pay gap in previous versions of Monopoly, so the whole reason women get more money in this version doesn't make any sense, because there isn't a Mr. Monopoly. It's just Monopoly. It's the same rules for everybody. And they're like, oh, but we need a version where women get an advantage. The other thing, I was like, what happens if a man happens to win? Because they say so in the ad and in the rules, like, yeah, a guy can still win. It's like, doesn't that just completely undermine the entire argument behind the wage gap? It's like, yeah, you can start off with a disadvantage and you can still win.
You start off with a disadvantage. You're basically penalized every time you circle around the board while everyone is getting more money for doing the same work.
I think it's depenalized.
Well, yeah. And you still win. Wouldn't that mean that you worked harder than everybody else and still won?
Yeah. And I guess if you are a woman and you play Miss Monopoly and you lose, the only person you can blame is the patriarchy. I mean, the only thing you can blame. It's not your fault, it's the patriarchy.
It almost sounds like you would have to try really hard to lose if you're a woman playing that game. You must have really screwed up if things are that bad.
Yeah, and so a lot of people were making those exact same points, but my contribution to the Miss Monopoly is, so does the Miss Monopoly game also increase women's incarceration? Like, oh, you have a higher chance of going to jail because we're balancing things out in Miss Monopoly, right? It's not, was it something like men are incarcerated something like 20 times more than women? So I guess...
20 times, but it's substantially higher.
Okay, so maybe my memory's failing me there on the 20 times, but
maybe that's just the incarceration time.
Oh, so yeah,
That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah. So the incarceration rate and the suicide rate not addressed at all in Miss Monopoly. I wonder why. I guess suicide, it wouldn't be a factor in Monopoly, but going to jail definitely would be. Like, oh yeah, this is a...
Yeah, I think it's like 10 times.
Okay, 10 times. All right.
But that's still ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not ridiculous in the fact that, yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, that's probably about right, considering, yeah, the percentage of men that commit crime versus the percentage of women that commit crime. That seems about right. But
the sentencing, the term, is drastically shortened for women doing the same crime.
Yeah.
So, regardless, I think it should just be, if it's a life-threatening crime, just max everybody. Don't care if you're a man or woman. You threaten someone else with life, too bad. Shouldn't have done that.
Yep. But
stuff with pot and whatnot, I don't know. I think that whole system should be reformed.
So I think they need to change the rules to increase women going to jail if you're going to play, like, make some house rules if you're going to play Miss Monopoly, and increase that female incarceration rate so we get a more even distribution there.
On a more serious note, but still related to this subject. So I saw a brief interview with Judge Judy, and they were asking her about how hard it was, her being a woman, coming up through the ranks, becoming a lawyer, and eventually becoming a judge. And she said, I never thought of it as men versus women. It was never an issue. I just became a lawyer. Not a woman lawyer, just a lawyer. I don't remember having any opposition because I didn't treat it as the man versus woman thing. I just did my job. There were plenty of men that helped me along the way, that were mentors, that showed me the rope. So it never was a man versus woman thing. I got here because I worked hard. I got here because I got here. And then I saw an interview on Andrew Klavan's show with one of the, the Tuskegee Airmen?
Yeah.
And he said the exact same thing. He was one of the first black pilots ever. And this was right around the time when black men were not allowed to fly airplanes at all. He had no concept of that. He joined the Air Force, was stationed on a base, and just kept pushing for it. Anytime there's opportunities, he was the volunteer. He's the guy who raised his hand. We needed more men, so eventually they started up a group of black pilots, and he was the one that got accepted. And he said, I never saw it as a black versus white thing. I saw it as, I want to defend my country. Let me in. Let me do my part. That's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Those are the people who succeed, is the ones who do not lock themselves in this little box.
Well,
oh, you're a woman, now you have to break these woman barriers. Like, no, I'm just a person. I'll break whatever barriers I see in front of me.
Because I think we've talked about that I don't remember if we've talked about this specifically on the, like, I guess maybe not recently, but I know I've talked about this previously on these streams, is it gets that mentality of, if it's the system that's holding you back, then you're not going to do everything you can do to succeed. It puts you in a place as like, oh, well, I just need to fix the system. I don't need to change anything about me or what I'm doing. I need to fix the system, and then you never end up doing what you need to do to succeed. So it's setting yourself up for failure, and it's not confirmation bias. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're like, oh, I can't succeed because society's pulling me down. Oh, I didn't succeed. It must have been society.
So, I mean, back to the Miss Monopoly, those women inventors, chocolate chip, but there are some stuff in there that's pretty inspiring. They didn't do that because they were a woman. They did that because they didn't care. They said, this is what I want to do, and so I'm going to do it. Yeah. That's how people succeed. If you want to be a young woman and get up, rise through the ranks, that's how women become CEOs. They push through and do the fight just like everybody else. They just don't quit. They don't let gender roles or whatever hold them down. Mm-hmm. I mean, man, I'm sure back in, old England, 1700s, 1600s, yeah, there were classes, there were certain hierarchies, there were certain barriers placed on people, then as well. But in the United States, that's been done away with. So, yeah, I see no point in a game like Miss Monopoly. It's pretty serious thinking.
Yeah, I don't know if they're actually gonna sell any copies of the game. I think it was just kind of to get attention on them, but don't think it's going to actually lead to any increase in sales, despite the ads and all that sort of stuff. This seems like a desperate plea for attention, but board games have been kind of on the decline for a while. But they've been replaced by video games and other activities, especially like, I mean, we play board games and stuff like that, but we don't play like the Hasbro versions, and or at least not typically.
For like kids. The downfall of that is because families no longer sit down and have family night.
Yeah.
Kids are on YouTube, they're playing video games, parents are off on YouTube, watching Netflix, doing whatever.
Yeah.
Families become separated.
Yeah, and anybody who does still play games on family nights and stuff like that, they're playing card games like Nerds and Rummy and some of these others that we play, or poker, we play games like Catan and what's the other one? Alhambra and stuff like that.
Since we were single digits.
But you go back to trying to play Monopoly or, Trouble and all this. They're like, dude, these games are boring. Like, I have no control over what I'm doing. It's all chance.
I do that with my kids when they were younger.
Yeah.
When they were 5, 6, stuff, Trouble was their favorite game because it's easy.
Yeah.
Like a little count the dots, move your guy. So, yeah, I sat on and did those board games with my kids.
Yeah.
But once I got past that age range, 4 to 8 or whatever it is, those board games kind of play out. So I think they're still way beneficial. That's why I sat down. We used to do family game night with Mom, and she would come over and us four would play board games. I think that's huge, of a huge benefit for family. But they're on the decline because families are on the decline.
Yeah.
A lot of broken homes, a lot of split up parents, a lot of parents who say, hey, my kids are entertained, so I'm doing my job, but they're just sitting there watching useless YouTube junk, makeup tutorials and whatever. So that's what I would attribute to the decline of board games, is just the breakup of the family.
Yeah, and anybody who's into board games is playing the board games where there's strategy involved and there's multiple variables. Yeah.
Sure. There's a lot of other board games out there that are doing okay, pretty decent, but those are
I mean, Magic the Gathering is still huge. That's not so much a board game. There's stuff like Dominion is really popular. Catan is, like I mentioned, that's still selling very, very well. But again, those are still a niche market, but those are actually seeing relatively steady sales on those games, whereas Monopoly and the typical what's the other one besides Monopoly? Like, not Connect 4, because that's 2-player. I guess Clue and Monopoly and stuff like that. The more mainstream stuff has been, their sales have been blah for years. I mean, I'm sure they still sell some copies of that stuff around the holidays and things like that, but nowhere near what they were, even 20 or 30 years ago.
Yep, it's unfortunate. I think those are good family activities.
Okay, so I don't have a good transition to the next thing, so I'm just gonna talk about it. So I guess maybe while we're on the topic of bitter old biddies, oh, I didn't send you these. So give me a second.
I don't think any of the links are showing up in the chat.
I haven't posted them, so that was my fault. I did not send them into the chat prior to the stream. I should have. So I'm sending those now. Okay, so the first one. So this apparently has been going on for a little while. Oh, oops. I meant this one first. So this has been going on since May or June. Because there was a. So this is talking about the annoying clucking hens on The View. So apparently there was a bit of a dispute on The View in May. And McCain and so Meghan McCain and Joy Behar were talking about gun issues and stuff like that. And McCain said, I will say this, if you take this kill shot, Democrats, you better not miss. And so people were starting to interpret these, let's see, on McCain, you better hit his jugular, and if there's even a finger still moving at the end, you're going to have a chance of ruining it. Yeah. Anyway. So this all just seems like kind of mindless, or it just seems like she's saying if you're going to try to do this, if you're going to attack the king, you better not miss, sort of thing. But it's been, I don't know if it's necessarily taken out of context, because it actually sounded like the post of Bayer, not this one right here where she's saying you swing, you have to hit the ball. There was another quote from her earlier where it sounded like she was encouraging people to actually attempt an assassination on Trump, and the FBI was investigating them over this. So they actually got suspended from the show based on these comments. And again, these comments were made back in May, but they were suspended, I think, in August or at the end of June. And then so Goldberg chimed in on this, I guess a little more recently, but I think this is also still happening in June. 2 people are out, yes, but not permanently okay. So, and then she's like, yeah, don't spread any rumors or anything like that. And both of them were forced to apologize. So Bayer and McCain ended up,
I mean, that's not surprising. Joy Behar is...
Yeah.
She's
so,
just the worst.
Yeah, I'm not sure why this was coming up, because this is the article that this came out September 8th. So I don't know why they were talking about it in September 8th, but both of them were back on the show this week. So they were suspended for a little over a month, and some people try to pass it off as, oh yeah, that was an expected vacation sort of thing, but it seems like it was because they're waiting for all of this to die down, especially with the Whoopi Goldberg talking about 2 people being out, yes. I was like, oh yeah, that definitely seems like they're not willingly stepping away from the show for a couple of weeks or months.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand where that comes from, right? So I understand what that phrasing means. If we're gonna take a shot, you better not miss. I get it. It means if you come after me and you can't take me down 100%, then expect retaliation.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily advocate for gun violence. It's just using that as a reference because we all know what guns do. Right?
Yeah.
But as anti-gun and as anti-gun rhetoric as they are on that show, why would that even come out of her mouth?
Yeah, because I don't see the quote here, but...
I mean, that's a little on the ridiculous side. You can't tell your audience how anti-gun you are and how we need to restrict all of this and we need to stop that and we need to stop with this rhetoric, and then you go and use that rhetoric. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, there was a quote from Bayar that made it sound a little bit more like, wait a minute, it sounds like she's encouraging Democrats to actually make the attempt, because that's what led up to the McCain, but these articles right here, they only talk about what McCain said and not so much what Joy Behar was saying to lead up to that. Because it sounded, at least from what I was reading, I didn't watch The View, and I'm just going off of what people were reporting about it. But it definitely sounded like Behar was kind of saying, oh, well, if you guys would do it, I'm not going to stop you, sort of thing. It's kind of egging it on, which, yeah, that... that wasn't like the exact quote, but it was something along those lines, and so...
I do have a slight tangent on that, still related to The View.
Yep.
So I don't watch it either, I just catch clips whenever it's brought up. But I saw a clip from pretty recent where they were talking about, what is it? Was it a fundraiser or something like that over in Hollywood? And
oh, yeah. This was the Will and Grace thing, right?
Yes. Said they need to start pulling a list of all the Republicans that show up and blacklist them from Hollywood. And then Whoopi Goldberg, surprisingly, said something that I agreed with, and she's like, we don't need a list. We've already had blacklists. This is not who we are. We shouldn't be doing that. You don't need to... You can have differences of opinion, but as soon as you start creating your blacklist, expect your name to be on someone else's. This is not how things get accomplished.
Yeah, so the 2 people involved in that, Eric McCormick, who plays Will, I think? I don't know, I don't watch the show. I just remember him from being the main guy in Travelers. But, and Deborah Messinger, I think is the name. So those are the two who are saying, oh, everybody who attends this event, we need to know who they are so I know not to work with them, sort of thing. But aside from the people working on the show, Will and Grace, nobody wants to work with either of them. Nobody. So here's the thing: is they after this they were attacked by people who were also like you said with Whoopi Goldberg, but there's other people other people were saying, yeah, I'm not a Republican or anything like that, but I don't want to work with you anyway.
I just want to make shows.
But they were saying, yeah, I don't want to work with you anyway, so even if we have the same politics, because of those statements, I don't want to work with you in the future.
Yeah, well, because they are going to bring that trouble onto a set of whatever show or movie.
Yeah.
They're going to turn it into some political deal. It's just the movie. It's just the show. I think the guy who played Will wasn't even gay.
No, he's not.
So, I don't understand.
Actually, I think both of the gay guys are not actually gay.
No, it was just a show.
Yeah. And actually, it's
it was just a show.
Okay, so I can't confirm whether both gay guys were gay, but there's 3 LGBT people that are the main cast. So Deborah Messinger is just straight, and Will was gay, played by a straight actor. The other actor, I think, is actually straight, but was also playing a homosexual. I can't confirm that. But then the lesbian woman in the show, she's married to the guy from Parks and Recreation. The Nick Offerman.
There was a dark-haired lady with the higher pitched voice.
Yeah, that's Nick Offerman's wife. so she was playing a lesbian. I'm like, wait. So I think none of the main homosexual characters in the show were actually played by homosexuals.
If they took their politics and applied it to their show, none of them would have been on the show.
Yeah.
Everyone was saying, hey, how are you going to have non-gay guys playing gay guys? Because it's acting. It's just the show. Politics needs to stay out of that garbage. I mean, out of Hollywood. Because it is just tearing it down. That's why nobody watches the Oscars anymore. The ratings have just been plummeting because every Oscar just turns into a bash Trump ceremony while everyone virtue signals about nothing. Just keep the politics out. But yeah, that was one of the surprisingly informed and rational things I heard out of Whoopi Goldberg. Is like, I'll agree with you this time. Not bad.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect that from her, but yeah, when they do something right, that's like, okay. I still think the View is unwatchable by anyone. And the so-called conservative woman on there, Meghan McCain, is unwatchable. She's one of those rhinos or whatever. That's a good transition. So, speaking of rhinos, the other story that was going around this week is Bolton is out. So, John Bolton, who was... nobody really knows why Trump let him into the cabinet. He was the national security advisor. He was under Bush I don't know if he was in the exact same role, but in a similar role. But pretty staunchly in favor of wars, and a lot of people are saying that he's one of the main reasons we went to Iraq. And it's like, that guy... He was one of the people perpetuating the Afghanistan and Iraq wars, if not being a primary reason why they started in the first place, or at least Iraq started in the first place.
My one perspective, and what seems most likely to me, is Trump's not a career politician.
Yeah.
And following the news and trying to keep up with what's happening with Republicans and Democrats and all the cabinet members. That's a lot of stuff to keep up with, especially when you're running multi-million-dollar businesses. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking he just wanted to run and start setting things right in the country. So when he got in and started picking his cabinet, he took some recommendations, and that Bolton guy's name popped up. He said, okay, we'll give him a shot. After 3 years, he's like, nope, this is not what I'm here for. Finally gave him the boot. That seems most likely.
Yeah.
Trump doesn't seem to be a warmongering type.
And I think it was I think it was Tim Pool who was talking about this. Either it was Tim Pool or it was Styx Hexenhammer was talking about. Actually, it might have been Styx who was talking about Bolton served a purpose in that Bolton was kind of, since he was a warmonger type, when Trump was threatening North Korea and Iran and stuff like that, people, they saw, Bolton in that place and were like, yeah, okay, maybe he's serious about this. This is not just an empty threat. He's actually got people on his, that were in previous administrations that did start 10-year wars. Maybe this isn't an idle threat. But now that negotiations for peace and all that are in play, and the reason Bolton actually got kicked out was because Trump was willing to come to the table and talk with Iran, and Bolton was saying, no, that's stupid, you can't do that. And Trump was like, okay, you're out. Yep, that's the final straw. And so, yeah, I think it was Styx who was talking about this, and was like, Bolton served a purpose in that it added that threat, like, oh, maybe Trump's not bluster because look at the people he put in his cabinet. These are the same warmongers that started previous wars. He's likely to pull that trigger if we don't take him seriously. But now that those peace negotiations are involved, Bolton's just gonna come in there and be like, war, and then that kind of defeats the purpose of peace talks.
Well, it's a lot of stuff. I mean, in this administration, just within 3 years, he's had to sit down with Putin.
Yeah.
And yeah, we don't agree with a lot of the way Russia operates. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
We had a Cold War with them. But it's better to have an open dialogue and at least get some talks started than to go to war. And he did the same thing with Kim Jong in North Korea and is actually in the DMZ shaking hands, and he's the only president.
Yeah.
I saw a meme where they had Bush, Clinton, Obama, and they're all behind these sandbags with binoculars staring at Trump shaking hands. And I was like, he's a businessman. He understands the value of a discussion.
Oh, yeah. See, that's the other...
It's so hard to sit down. Even if we come to no agreement with countries in the Middle East, let's at least try that tactic, because we haven't done that for decades.
Yeah. And so I like the point that you brought up, the fact that he's a businessman, so this is discussions I've been having on Twitter past couple of days about, it started with Yang's proposal and all that sort of thing, but it got to talking about why companies wouldn't go to war with each other. And I'm like, anybody who comes to that conclusion doesn't understand anything about businesses, because businesses like to save money. Businesses don't like to spend money needlessly. I mean, this is something people criticize businesses, like, oh, they're just greedies and they just want to maximize the dollar. And I'm like, well, if they want to maximize the dollar, think they're the most greedy people in the world and they're just trying to maximize the dollar. How does war help that? Oh, wait, it doesn't. Because wars are costly. You don't always get what you're after. Like, how many wars are started where people come out more broke than they were when they went in? There's no guarantee of success. You create a whole bunch of new enemies. Overall, it's a financial disaster. War is the worst possible outcome for any business transaction. It's like, yeah, that's going to cost your business in the run. You are losing money by going to war. That's the thing, yeah.
I think what a lot of people are failing to understand is the only reason the U.S. came out on top during World War II is because we were financing our allies. They gave us the gold.
Yeah.
And we supplied them with military equipment. That's how we made money, is by not directly getting involved at first.
Yeah.
When we are the country initiating the war, it's a lot.
Oh, dude. So while it was the correct decision for us to get involved in World War II because we had to stop Hitler and basically the Axis powers in general. But look at the other party that remained neutral and just sold weapons, and the other group in that was Switzerland. Switzerland made bank off of both World War I and World War II, and they never suffered a huge financial setback. Like, they were selling munitions and they were managing trade and all that sort of thing for both sides. They took a neutral stance. They didn't support one side or the other, but they made money all over the place.
Well, they made money off of others' wars.
Yes.
Same way we made money initially in World War II is because these other countries gave us their gold and said we need military equipment. So we said, all right.
But the actual
that boosted our economy because we weren't directly involved at first.
Yeah, and the actual participants in the war overall lose, and this is exemplified like the best example or the most crystal example of this is the Civil War in the United States. The Civil War in the United States tanked our economy from both the North and the South. Like, economists are talking about, like, people are like, oh, the United States was built on slavery and all that. Civil War, the cost of the Civil War, both in lives and in resources and everything, that they had to introduce taxes in order to finance the Civil War. Like, for the first time ever, we had a income tax in the United States purely to finance the Civil War. And even then, they were paying soldiers in greenbacks from the North that were unbacked by anything. When it's all said and done,
is like we need another way to finance this. We're just hemorrhaging money.
Yeah, when it was all said and done, at the end of the Civil War, the United States economic value was zero. We had to rebuild after the Civil War from zero to get to where we are now. I was like, so that's with that. The reason that's a crystal example is because that was self-contained in one country, the overall loss. Now, even when we won the Civil War, we still end up losing. Like, it's just overall loss of life, overall loss of resources and money. We had to completely rebuild the entire. Now, if you're looking at this. If it was the North conquering the South, like what happens when country versus country sort of thing, it's easy to see, it's easy to point out just the overall gains of one side versus the other. But the overall condition of the battlefield, it's either a zero-sum game or it's an overall loss. There is no true winner when it comes to wars. And you can see that time and time again. The only winners during a war are those who sit on the, like you said, on the sidelines selling munitions to both sides.
Now, the only thing that I can say would be somewhat of a caveat isn't necessarily war, but it has to do with oil over in the Middle East. One of the primary reasons we went in is because oil has somewhat practically replaced gold as backing for our dollar. And so to keep OPEC afloat and to make sure we were the top dog, I don't agree with it, but I can see the motivation behind going in to try and stop Middle East countries from selling oil to our enemies, and to kind of claiming that and saying, this is going to stay this way. But that was back when we thought we were dependent on that oil. We are not.
Yeah.
We've got enough oil to run our own country from our own country.
Yeah, and thanks to fracking and...
Yeah, and the fact we got Alaska.
Yeah.
Hundreds of thousands of miles of untapped resources.
Yeah. So, if it came to it where we needed oil, we've got oil in the U.S. that we can tap into that we're not currently tapping into. The other thing is our energy independence, thanks to, and it's mostly thanks to, again, Trump's first 100-day policies that eased restrictions on fracking, and despite what the Democrats are saying, right now it's... Sorry, what?
Yeah, regulations and restrictions, allowing these energy sector to build back up. And
yeah, the energy sector has exploded is probably the wrong word, but has grown pretty rapidly over the past 2 years, and it's mostly due to those regulation easements. And a big part of that is natural gas. We have reduced our reliance on outside energy sources purely because of the amount of natural gas we're producing in the United States now. If you look at how much oil and how much outside resources we're importing when it comes to the energy sector, it plummeted. It is. I'll look up the exact figures and bring those, but like right now, if we were cut off from all other countries, we'd be fine.
So, I think planning going forward, and I would like to see if we actually go this route. I know Trump is wanting to pull our troops out of like Afghanistan and other countries in the Middle East. but we do not want to cause another ISIS.
Yeah.
We can't just leave a void and say, everyone's back. F you guys. I know we've been fighting for some of you. Or at least that's what we said. But now we're just going to leave an empty vacuum and allow some radical group to come in and take over again. So we do need to find a solution to that, to where we can kind of maintain eyes and assist with development of those countries, to where they get to, a mutual understanding between us and them, but we're not their police, we're not their dad.
Mm-hmm.
But at least some way where we can maintain a little bit of insight as to what's going on and not allow a terrorist sect to form up like ISIS did. We can't just leave a void there. However, we need to try and back off as much as possible, become energy independent with our country, understand that, yeah, there's a giant chunk of land in Alaska, and if fracking is proved to be as safe as, we can see recently, yeah, it's one of our most efficient ways of getting energy, of getting natural gases. Let's start doing that in our own country, build our economy. Then we can look at countries like Venezuela, see if we can make deals with them and say, look, we'll help get you guys out of your deficit. But we're not doing that with your current government. Mm-hmm. We don't deal with socialist or fascist governments. You want our help? You guys restructure. Then we'll make a deal with you. We'll make some trade agreements for export of your oil. Now we've got another source of energy while trying to help rebuild a country and making them self-reliant without military tactics. We can maybe build a base down there, just kind of like we have with some other European countries. Hey, just a place in case we need to protect some interest, but we're not here to start a war. You guys sort yourself out and we'll partner up. If you can't sort yourself out, then sit and squander. But this gets us more into the lines of negotiating with countries rather than just going out to attack.
Okay, so moving on to the next subject, and I'm glad you end with that, because we've got some raw footage of a vicious attack that I'm gonna share with you. I didn't post this in the Hangout, did I? All right, give me 1 second. All right, yeah, I didn't post them before we started, so that's my fault. But
post midstream.
Yeah, I just put it in the chat right now. So
it didn't.
Yeah, I just put it in there.
Maybe.
All right, so
they are softening the ground for straight up racism, and that is what we are seeing today. Here to discuss this new report in detail.
Thank you, Brian. As you can see, I'm on the scene where the white baby attacked the black baby. As you can see in the footage that this white baby attacked the black baby unprovoked and then chased him down. We've actually have early reports saying that the baby did say goo goo gaga, which roughly translates to, this is MAGA country, I'm going to lynch you. As you can see up, we have the information of the baby, we have where he works, we have the date of birth and his address. Use that at will. Back to you, Brian.
It was tempting to say we should just ignore this event and call it a stunt and move on, but something important was happening. There are millions of Americans, black and brown Americans, who know exactly what he means when he says go back to where you came from. They've heard those words on the schoolyard.
Okay. So that was the clip we talked about last week with the two toddlers hugging each other. And then so Joey Solids is a YouTuber who makes, staged prank videos and all that sort of. That was his claim to fame, and apparently he comes from money outside of YouTube, because like there's things in his videos, even from his earlier videos, it was like there's no way he could have financed that. So he seems kind of like the what?
Is he the one that shows up with the expensive cars?
One of them, yeah. So yeah, it seems like he comes from money, and it's kind of like the Paul brothers, where a lot of his earlier videos is like, hey, look how rich I am, sort of thing. And then he got into making fake prank videos. And I say fake prank because they're advertised as if, oh, he pulled this prank on people, but turns out, it's all staged, and everybody involved knows what's going on. Nobody's actually being tricked or fooled by the event that's supposed to be this, oh, I can't believe they did that, sort of thing. But anyway, he is running for Congress now, and his posts and stuff like that, but I'm not a fan of his channel or anything like that, but After seeing him post that video, I was like, yeah, dude, I gotta subscribe, or I gotta follow him on Twitter after that, because that was golden. Yeah, so aside from his YouTube channel and stuff like that, he is a conservative, and he's been on talk shows talking about his political views and things like that. Oh, and one of his actual videos that was more kind of like an expose was he went to try to purchase firearms. Let's see. So he tried first at a gun show and things like that. Was trying to purchase firearms without a background check in order to prove that. So that was one of his like better quality videos. It's not staged or fake, at least from what we can tell. It looks like he's legitimately like, yeah, this is they made me do a background check, and the only way he could actually purchase a firearm without one is he found an individual willing to sell their firearms directly, not at a gun show or anything like that, and it was just a direct sale of a firearm, which that's not statistically that's not happening all that often. Usually the person selling a gun or giving a gun to someone is a family member or a friend. That's if you look at the percentages of overall gun sales to unknown persons without a background check, it's really, really small. It's a minority of the gun sales overall. Anyway, but just kind of, that was some of his legitimate work.
Especially with the gun shows, those guys crack down.
Oh, dude, yeah.
They're constantly targeted for illegal sales.
Yeah.
None of those idiots, none of them would be stupid enough to just start selling stuff out of the trunk of their car at a gun show.
Oh, no, yeah.
No idea if there's FBI patrolling around.
Well, it's ATF is actually, but so all gun shows are reported to the ATF in order to be held. Like gun shows, they have to notify the ATF that they are occurring. That means more than likely ATF agents will be on the sales floor of the gun shows.
Yeah.
So anytime, like, you, like, if you're going to do something that's criminal in nature, like if you are a licensed firearms seller, and you're required by law to run a background check, and hey, we notified the ATF that this is going down. Oh, I'm just gonna sell a gun without a background check and hope the ATF doesn't crack down on me for it. You're like, oh, I just made $800 and saved myself. I think it's like a $50 fee to run a background check or something. It's something pretty small, like less than $100 for a background check. You're like, oh, I just saved myself $50 by not running a background check, and crap, now I gotta pay $500,000 in fees.
Yeah.
The ATF just. I'm not sure if it's a $500,000. That's probably incorrect, but I do know the fees are pretty substantial. It might be something like $200,000. You're like, oh, I just made a $800 gun sale and skipped the $50 fee, and man, now I owe hundreds of thousands of dollars. Yay.
Yeah, we'll add it on to the fact that weapons seller doesn't want their name attached to illegal sales, because that's going to hurt their business or possibly get them shut down. Yeah.
Hurts their reputation. The other thing is, like, you can go to there's tons of videos online where people are trying to buy firearms from authorized sellers, like licensed gun dealers, and if they mention anything that seems kind of violent or like, wait a minute, what are you using this for? Even if you pass a background check, those gun sellers will be like, dude, I'm not selling you a gun. So it's because their reputation is like, yeah. If they think that you are going to try to use their guns for something malicious, they're not even gonna try to sell you.
No weapons dealer wants to have their name attached to some mass shooting thing.
Yeah.
At the end of their business.
Yeah, if you look at like all of the more recent ones, like I think with the exception of one, those guns were bought or were obtained illegally in the first place, and I think the one where the weapon was obtained legally, trying to remember which case.
In Nevada and then drove into California.
Yeah,
that one?
Yeah, it was obtained out of state, but it was obtained legally in the state he obtained it in. But it was not legal for him to drive it across state lines. So it was still doing something. The gun was legally obtained, although an illegal action happened before the actual shooting. Alright. But that was just kind of funny, talking about CNN's deception, and I thought Joey Salads did a good job with that particular video. But going with the CNN is full of crap line, okay, the 9/11 thing, I don't know if you saw this, it made me so freaking angry. So on 9/11, CNN was talking, I don't have a video clip of this, but they were talking about how white terrorism was more of a threat. And again, they is more of a threat than Islamic terrorists, and they were saying this on 9/11, and in the, I think it was Brian Stelter who was talking about this, he was saying, counting terrorist events after 9/11, white terrorism is more, I'm like,
it's not even close, even if you add the after.
It's, okay, so the number of incidents is not even close. The number of deaths, because of the Las Vegas shootings, yes, more deaths in white terrorism in the U.S. If you count worldwide, no, why would you? In the U.S., the number of deaths due to white terrorism is higher than due to Islamic terrorism. Like, you're ignoring almost 3,000 deaths one day earlier, and they were doing this on the anniversary of 9/11. I'm like, wow. I like, yeah, it was one of those, like, I was like, okay, I need to punch something or I need to grip my teeth. It's like, dude, what is wrong with these people? Like, oh, well, if we just ignore 3,000 deaths one day prior and we just calculate everything from here on out, look, it's not as deadly. But the percentage, so, yes, the Las Vegas shooting did put white terrorism ahead in death counts. There are more Islamic terrorist events total. But it's also, they're very close in the number of death count. Like, I think they're off by something in the margin of 20 or 30 when it comes to total deaths. And you're like, a difference of a few dozen, and you're saying, oh, but white terrorism is more deadly and more of a threat. And I'm like, not by much. And also, if you add that 3,000, it's not even close anymore.
Yeah, that one event was that shook our entire country. How can they just ignore that?
I don't know. It's, yeah, that like, I understand CNN is dishonest and despicable and they spread fake news and stuff, like, but you would think that they would show some kind of, like, okay, maybe not today on 9/11, because you think, hey, people are going to tune in to hear what we're going to say about 9/11 anyway, and they use that to spread this. I'm like, dude.
Yeah, that Brian Stelter guy is extremely dishonest. His only purpose is just to do mass fear-mongering.
Yeah. I mean, like, you got plenty of people will tune in to hear what CNN says about 9/11 anyway. Why are you using this to say, oh, white terrorism is more of a threat? You should be scared of white terrorism on 9/11. I'm like, ugh.
This is not the day for that.
Yeah. Not the day, not the time, not the, yeah. And the only kind of silver lining to that is that should, like, I'm sure people tuned in and were like, dude, I'm done with CNN forever. I'm pretty sure they lost a lot of viewers that were like, that even leftists that were like kind of hardcore CNNs were like, what? I'm out. That's the only thing I can kind of hope was the reaction to that. Okay. One last story. Again, I don't have anything pulled up for this, and I don't have a good transition. The only other thing that happened this week, because I want to move off of the 9/11 because that's just infuriating on CNN's part. But, so this is kind of a more lighthearted thing, is Trump banned flavors of vape juice.
Oh, yeah, I was actually going to bring that up. So, obviously, I'm a little biased.
Yeah.
I vape, but just wanted some additional opinion on that. What do you see that as correcting anything?
No.
As a valid step towards anything?
So, cigarettes still responsible for thousands, if not millions, of deaths per year. I don't know the exact number. I just know it's at least thousands, hundreds of thousands a year related to tobacco use. from cigarettes. Nothing. No ban. No. Well, just ignore that. 6 deaths. 6 deaths from vaping.
490,000 just in the U.S.
Okay, yeah, 490,000 annually. Yeah, just in the U.S. Nothing done about that. 6 deaths due to vaping, and 6 deaths that were not due to vape juice whatsoever. They were due to contaminated cartridges for, what's the, it's not, I want to say HTC, but that's not the acronym. THC.
Well,
so THC, which is related, so it's a cannabis byproduct in these cartridges, and the issue was there was vitamin E in the cartridge, which when heated up to the temperature that the vaporizer heats them up to, becomes toxic. Yeah. So, and all 6 of these deaths were due to purchasing this contaminated, or these these THC juice, which is different, purchased on the black market, that were contaminated with vitamin E.
Yep,
so
that stuff right now, there are no manufacturers, like legitimate public manufacturers, that are putting THC pod things out.
Yeah.
That's all brewed.
So specific flavors. Yeah.
Vitamin E, what is it, like vitamin E acetate or something?
Yeah. And I don't think heated up vitamin E itself is toxic, but when it's inhaled, it is toxic, and which is what you're going to do with heating it up and vaporizing it.
Correct, yeah. Vitamin E in of itself is good for your skin, but...
Yeah, but when it's heated up like that, and then inhaled, it becomes toxic.
It has a different heating temperature than the other components.
Yeah.
So, that I understand. The other push is for marketing.
Mm-hmm.
They're saying it's marketing because of the different flavors. It's marketing to underage. Not smokers, but underage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Underage using the product.
But I don't think anybody's told, or at least nobody's seemed to inform the president. The ingredients in vape juice are the same that are found in pretty much any kind of confection or candy. A lot of it is, a lot of the ingredients used for vape juice are from candy manufacturers.
Well, the thing is, this is the same propaganda that was used back in, when was that Joe the Camel controversy?
Yeah,
They said because he was a cartoon character,
it was an appeal to kids.
And so children wanted to smoke because they saw a cartoon camel smoking.
Yeah.
Which is utter nonsense. Nobody went to and said, did you see that cartoon camel? Can I bum a smoke?
No, yeah, so in my experience, advertising and all, nobody cares. People you learn to smoke from are your friends and family that smoke. That's like, I learned by watching you. Yeah, that's like 9 times out of 10, that's why people start smoking. It's because somebody they either hang out with a lot smokes, or a friend or a family, and like, oh, hey, can I bum a cigarette off of you? Or it's because their parents heavy smoker and they pick it up from their parents. Like they sneak one of, like, oh, hey, I'm gonna sneak one of your cigarettes out and smoke. That's the majority of it. Nobody cares about what, oh, Joe Camel is doing this, I need to copy that. And it's like, no, it's the kid down the street, and like, oh, hey, that kid's cool and he's smoking, I'm gonna do that. But the reason I was talking about the ingredients is because you can get vape juice that has no nicotine whatsoever in it.
Yeah.
There's no reason a underage person can't get an e-cigarette and get non-nicotine vape juice and vape that. Nothing's... Yeah. They can't do that. Even... So here's the other idiotic thing about this ban. Is it was specific flavors. It wasn't like all cartridges or all... It's like, just some random flavors that... These like specific flavors you can't have, and it's like, what?
Fruity Pebbles, or some berry flavors.
And you're like, it's like there's still a bunch of other flavors that are very candy.
I wanted to ban anything that was a non-tobacco flavor, so including menthol. The whole reason that the vaping industry has boomed as big as it has is because they have non-tobacco flavors.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way I think I tried once to use a tobacco flavor in a vape device years ago. And I was like, nope, it's not like a cigarette, and it still tastes like ass. No,
Yeah.
thank you. Why would I do something that's not as fulfilling and still tastes like garbage?
Yeah.
And still stink? No thanks. So, if they do a complete ban on everything other than tobacco flavored juice, that's going to kill a potentially beneficial industry. The whole purpose of the vape industry was to get people off of cigarettes.
Yes. And for those of you who don't know, the reason that you now vape is because you had a, I don't know if you want to go in, like you had a bad habit of smoking. Like I was.
Yeah, I'm a smoker.
Yeah. Like I don't know how many packs you were going through, but I was doing research into vaping overall, and I'm like, dude, this is, even if you smoke at the same rate, but it's through vaping as opposed to regular cigarettes, the health benefits exponentially. So I bought you for Christmas a vape pen, and now I'm pretty sure that one you've replaced, and now you tinker on your own and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but
that's what got me started on the whole vaping thing. That's what got me off of cigarettes. I haven't had a cigarette in been over 3 years.
Yeah. And I was doing the research, I was comparing it, it's like, okay, the only somewhat studies that talk about this, they talk about any kind of possible health hazard when it comes to vaping, is because of some kind of, some small metallic particles that come from the cartridges itself, but as they refine the cartridges, you're going to see less and less of those metallics entering in. But I was like, even with all of that, if you're talking about, there's some metallic flakes that come into the e-juice and you could inhale that, and I'm like, you're inhaling tar. If you're smoking a cigarette, you're inhaling tar.
Yeah, along with a dozen different aldehydes.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, potential to inhale some metal flakes, but that's not going to, or that has, statistically and through the studies I was looking at, haven't shown any signs of long-term damage or increasing your chances of lung cancer or anything like that. I was like, okay, yes, not as safe as breathing air. Well, 1,000 times safer than smoking a cigarette. All right,
so
that was
information, since I kind of did a deep dive into this before I got heavy into vaping, and most of those studies were at the very beginning when they didn't have regulated boxes. Because in this one, if I push the button, it heats up to a certain temperature, and then that's kind of it. It's not a direct battery. I don't just push a button, so there's no real risk of explosion, and it regulates how much voltage goes into the top. It's self-regulating. Most mods for the past 4 or 5 years have been like that. And this is just due to industry standards changing, self-regulated. Additionally, the components that have been used in here have been used in food industry and in the health industry for decades. Yep. One of the main ingredients I think it's
glycerin.
Still used, but it was used in the inhaler for asthma.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's the stuff that keeps it from gelling together.
Medicine. The particles are too big to be absorbed, and it just delivered the medicine, and then you breathe it out. Propylene glycol. This has already been tested for medical purposes for decades. So what needs to happen with the industry, if the government is going to get involved, is just to make sure that we've got some rigid standards. We don't get contaminated juice pushed out by manufacturers, so they would need to meet up to a certain quality, which most manufacturers already do that.
Yeah, they're already doing that because they don't want dead people on, that kills sales.
Their entire purpose is to get people off of cigarettes and have a healthier, no, it's not 100% healthy, but it's 1,000 times better than smoking a cigarette. Yeah. And I've also seen
it's also cheaper, right?
Once you get your setup, it can be quite a bit cheaper.
Yeah, because if you
a lot cheaper, and if you get into making your own, I've done that for a while as well. It's like 20 times cheaper.
Yeah. So.
And then a couple of $2-3 a month on just random stuff, maybe up to $5 a month on juice supplies.
Oh, dude, yeah.
$5 for a pack, which would last 2-3 days when I was on the low end of it. But there's also newer research coming out about nicotine, and just pure nicotine is not really addictive. And there are studies showing that it may also have health benefits similar to caffeine or like even the THC from pot.
Yeah. So what they're, because this was something that I think Crowder talked about when he was talking about this on his show, is studies right now are showing that it's one of the most potent cognitive boosters that we know
a
of.
mental stimulant, similar to caffeine. It's in the same chemical family.
Yeah, and it has the potential for either curing or preventing Alzheimer's and things along the Alzheimer's and dementia. That's what they're looking at it for. Is like, oh, nicotine on its own could help us solve these things or at least prevent them.
And the big difference with the vaping community versus standard traditional tobacco is they directly extract nicotine. It is a pure nicotine extract, and then that gets mixed in to 2 other juices and a little flavor. You're not burning anything to get that nicotine intake.
Yeah, you're not breathing in the actual smoke, like because what you exhale is essentially water vapor and maybe a couple other, like, but it's not.
It is both ingredients. The only thing that gets absorbed is the nicotine.
Yeah.
So the propylene glycol carries the nicotine, and the vegetable glycerin is what makes the vapor appear.
Mm-hmm.
It basically condenses water molecules from your lungs and in the air, and then you breathe it all out.
Oh yeah. So and here's the other so this was, I mean, there's a lot of selling points when it comes to vaping over traditional cigarettes. There's no such thing as secondhand vaping.
Correct.
Yeah. Secondhand smoke is definitely
and it's no different than a fog machine at a Halloween party.
And it also smells like that. It smells great. I'm like, oh, dude, what flavor is that? Like, so, like strawberry or Skittle or whatever kind of flavors you got going. I'm like, oh, dude, that smells great. But
so, I mean, aside from the benefits, the ban is supposed to be because they're worried about the deaths from it, which there was no real research done when Trump made that statement.
Yeah.
It was just assumed, oh, people are starting to die. I mean, the vape industry has been around for years.
Yeah.
No deaths until just within a short time span, 6 people. And, there's a couple hundred that have had some adverse effects. But it looks like it's all targeted for these black market THC pods because they are infused with this vitamin E oil, which is what people make, I guess, wax or some other THC substance. So they were just blending that in with regular e-juice and saying, give it a try.
Yeah.
Turns out that vitamin E oil burns at the temperature. The rest of this just vaporizes, and it does become toxic. So we need research into that, and then into how to standardize safe practices.
Yeah.
So if you're going to manufacture juices, you're going to manufacture parts, let's standardize it so it's healthy and it's acceptable, and not just outright ban it, because there have been hundreds of thousands of people who have gotten off of tobacco products, off of smoking, onto vaping. And one of the main draws is that it doesn't stink and it tastes great. It has a different feel than smoking, and that's what a lot of people have an issue transitioning. But with all the flavors available, they say, you know what, I got a wide variety. I can take this over smoking a cigarette. That's one of the reasons I moved over.
Yeah. And overall in studies, it shows it has a more effective rate of preventing smoking or getting people to stop smoking than gum or patches or cold turkey or program. This is the most effective way to get people to stop smoking.
Yes. So an outright ban just seems a bit ludicrous. I don't know how Trump can actually enforce anything like that. I mean, I guess putting an FDA ban or pressure to put a ban, but that's going to cause a lot more harm than good.
Yeah,
and there are additional studies that smoking, like actual cigarettes, among middle schoolers and high schoolers is still on a downward trend, even with vaping going up.
Yeah.
So kids are still going to be trying to do stuff. Kids are still going to start drinking before they're 21. They're hanging out. Peer pressure is a thing. And yes, we can have programs like DARE and try and mitigate that as much as possible, but it's going to happen. Banning Joe the Camel did not actually decrease youth smoking.
No.
It had no effect.
No impact whatsoever on smoking in high school or middle school.
Fruity flavors isn't going to stop kids from using their little jewels. Having stricter regulations on what age you can buy it, just like we do with alcohol checks. If you're caught serving underage, you're going to have a massive fine.
Mm-hmm.
That I can agree with. Just like we already do with cigarettes. kids still get it somehow. They either sneak it from parents, from friends, or stand outside a gas station like I did when I was a teenager. Pay some guy, hey, I'll give you $15. You buy me a pack of smokes. That's how kids get this stuff.
Yep.
There's not really any way to circumvent that. But at the very least, why hinder or ban an industry that is a much better alternative than what's out there with cigarettes? Let's find a compromise and say, hey, let's get some better age restrictions, some better ID check systems to verify who's buying this stuff, and then let's standardize the production so you can come out with whatever flavors, but just make sure everything is clean, is consistent, so we're not having people getting weird infections from unknown particles.
Well, and like I said, so that stuff was black market, or not. That was not bought at a store or from a
even the online vape shop, they don't sell that stuff.
Yeah. So those companies are already doing, like you're saying, they already got standardized practices in place because they don't want to kill customers. That people are already looking for any reason to scrutinize their industry. The last thing they want is to have one of their cartridges explode, or somebody get in the hospital because of their product. They want to they want as many customers as possible. It's very hard to do that when people are dying by using your product.
And they've been doing really well self-regulated. All the vape shops in my area require an ID. If you look like you're anywhere close to 18, you can't even go in the front door. They won't even let you in the lobby. That's all vape shops. You're not allowed, just like a bar.
Yeah. They maintain themselves because they don't want to get their business shut down.
You just can't go to the bar, but you can stand here. No, you just can't go in the front door. That's how vape shops are operated. There's a lot of vape distributors that sell parts and sell juices and liquids, where you actually have to photocopy your ID and send that in and start an account with your picture and your driver's license number before you can start an account with them. They're already doing ID checks even online because they're trying to do this. Exactly what people are complaining about is avoiding underage sales and keeping the market clean and making sure products are clean and everything makes for a better alternative to smoking. And self-regulated, I think they've been doing a pretty darn good job. So yeah, I'm, again, a bit biased because I do use vape products, but from my perspective, trying to step outside of the bias, it just seems a bit ludicrous, very rash. Now, I did hear some rumorings because what's Melania's son's name?
I
think there was a rumor going around.
Barron Trump.
He got
Yeah.
Underage, and so that kind of ticked both of them off. But that's not how you run a country, is based off of something your kid did.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true or not. That's unsubstantiated. Just
even if that's not true, Melania did get involved, and she was worried because this is, what if the kids what if, Barron gets involved in this, and it's like, it's this.
Well,
so the arbitrary nature of this makes it seem like he was just like, dude, just give her something, just so she gets off my back, and just lets this go, just throw it. It doesn't have. It's something that is meaningless. Like this, the flavors band is like, people are looking at it, it's like, these are just random flavors, and this doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to this. This seems like just give her something. Just give her something to shut her up, and then we'll. This seemed more kind of like that. Yeah, whatever. Just good enough.
I mean, I don't know. I don't agree with middle schoolers and high schoolers getting stuck on that and starting the vape. It's too bad that they're even joining in, but there's not really much difference between using a Juul and drinking a can of soda. The nicotine in the Juul and the caffeine in the soda are about the same as far as the stimulant goes, and as far as any negative health aspects. But the soda, you're getting a high dose of sugar. The vape thing, all you're getting is the nicotine. And just straight nicotine, it's not as addictive as everybody says. It's everything else in the cigarette that caused it to be addictive.
Yeah, because they purposely put ingredients in there that were either carcinogenic or, I mean, granted, they probably didn't know they were carcinogenic at the time, but they purposely put ingredients in there purely to get you addicted to it, to get you to smoke cigarettes more, which is why cigar smokers, even though cigars are more pure tobacco, I mean, with other ingredients in there, But people don't develop a cigar addiction, but they will develop a cigarette addiction. The dependencies on cigars is not the same, is nowhere near what the dependency is on cigarettes. The other thing is you don't inhale cigars in order to get the effect of a cigar.
Yeah, I would not recommend
you
that.
puff on a you puff on a cigar, you don't inhale that, but cigarettes you definitely inhale. But yeah, they put ingredients in there that to add to the addictive nature.
So, yeah, I don't want to go on too much further with that topic. I know you wanted to keep the stream shorter, but
Yep.
yeah,
So it is just about 9 o'clock.
Good thing to put out, and I hope that gets conducted with thorough insight into the industry and what's actually the benefits versus the cons, not just outright banning one of the greatest smoking alternatives that we've had in decades.
Okay, so that was kind of my last topic, I think I said, but so this one wasn't planned, but this is something that just popped into my head as we were talking about that, because this is something I was talking about last week. I'm not going to go through the whole diatribe anymore, but oh, I didn't send you the link, did I?
I haven't got any of the links, so I'm not sure where you're posting them.
I'm posting them in the Hangout, man. You're saying you're not seeing them in the Hangout at all?
It's all blank.
Show messages?
Yeah.
You don't
no
see
messages.
anything in the messages?
Nah, it doesn't matter.
Alright. So, I'm just gonna go to it, though. So none of those are showing up in your... very odd. Because I'm sending them. They're showing up on my end as being sent in the messages.
Yeah, I don't know. Must be
Okay.
some bug thing out.
So, the Ilhan Omar thing is back in the news, and this just started like about noon today. Because of this tweet by Ilhan Omar from Father's Day in 2013, that was brought up by the Imam of Peace. So here she is. She's saying, "Happy Father's Day to my Abu." I guess that's pronounced that. Nurse said, "I am forever grateful to Allah for giving me the best father." ... There's the Instagram for this. The link in this Instagram was deleted previously, but this Twitter post referring to it was not. This was one of the. So this was not deleted until I think Monday, I think Monday this was deleted. This was either deleted Monday or this was deleted this morning. But the Imam of Peace has been tweeting about this, and he was like, "Oh, here she is saying that her dad's name is Nur Said." And if you go to the Twitter page, they have his name as Nur Omar Muhammad. And here she is referring to her father as Nur Said. And as we talked about, weeks ago, the man that she married, his name was Ahmed Nur Said. So, as well as Ahmed Nur Said Almi, but the Almi would be the great-grandfather as opposed to the grandfather. So, it's very, very unlikely for two people to have the same father and grandfather's name. That's not very common. And the odds of this happening for two people who are married, really rare. So he was pointing to this, but she deleted this. After the Imam of Peace posted about this,
That's more suspicious.
yeah, this was on there since 2013, deleted to either today or yesterday. That's as soon as he starts posting about it. And then he posted a video earlier today where he was saying anytime he tries to post about Ilhan Omar, the tweet doesn't go through. And he showed himself doing it 3 or 4 times, and granted that could be a network connection. Well, I mean, no, it can't be a network connection, because he showed, hey, I'm just doing a test tweet, okay, that worked. Here's my tweet about Ilhan Omar. Huh, that didn't go through. All right, let's try again. Didn't go through. So for some reason, Twitter, anytime he would post about Ilhan Omar or this topic, wouldn't let him through, but he posted tweets about anything else. And I've seen this myself. As far as Twitter's policies, I could post a link to a news article from like the New York Times or the Washington Post, but anytime I would post to my website, the wow, I'm drawing a blank on the name. That's terrible. Funfair, wow. I don't know why I was drawing a blank on that. Anytime I would put www.funfair.com in my tweets, they would not send. I could post just that Twitter link, just that website address, hit send, and it would not send. I don't know why Twitter was blocking that particular option. I could send a link to any other website that I could think of, but I could not send a link to my website. I could space it out, and the tweet would go through. I could www.spacefunfair.com, and that would work. That was bizarre. So I saw him doing the same sort of thing with posting about Ilhan Omar. So it seemed to be that they were specifically blocking... Oh, here's the other crazy thing about that. Other people could post with my website on it. I could not.
That's really weird. Sounds like they've got a personal censor.
Yeah. So it sounded like... So when he was trying to post, the only thing in that post that would have possibly triggered a flag was he had linked to Ilhan Omar directly. And she doesn't block him, and she can't block him because we've seen with the lawsuits against Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib is you can't block people from Twitter if you're a public official, and those go to court and that sort of thing. And Steven Crowder and his lawyer Bill Richmond, the half Asian lawyer, when he was blocked by I don't remember which politician, I think it might have been Ilhan Omar. They threatened legal action, and then that block was removed the next day. So this was not a block on her part, because he could go to her Twitter feed. So this was not a block from her. This was something Twitter was specifically doing to his account, because he could not post that video for a temporary amount of time. I don't know.
No, if that's unconstitutional or illegal for a public official to be able to block anyone from seeing content, and yet on that same platform, the company is doing that on an individual basis. I don't know if that runs into an unconstitutional, basically a lawsuit that can pop up if it's found there's evidence that they are personally censoring specific accounts. If you've been flagged for whatever, they put in keywords on your account that are now censored, or key links. Anything containing this phrase is blocked on your account specifically.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I think there's supposed to be a big investigation going on with some of the tech companies.
Yep.
Soon, so we'll see what happens with that.
So so this has been making the news again, even though this is stuff like it's basically a retread of everything I've talked about previous weeks, but this has gotten more scrutiny from more prominent members, because it was previously kind of just rumors and smaller news organizations, but now this is getting picked up by a lot more people talking about this. So, because this definitely adds credibility to the she married her brother thing. It's like, well, if there was nothing wrong with this tweet, why did you delete it? Why did you just delete it this week as opposed to previously? Because
just opposed to like any time in the last 5 years.
Yeah, and then my contribution is this: maybe she has a different experience with the use of names. That's terrible, but
and she could have just left it and explained, hey, that's not the same guy. Here's why.
Yeah, yeah. And it's very, very weird that she would forget her father's own name. Or at least misrepresent her father's name.
Yep.
On Father's Day. Hey, by the way, I'm just going to say that your name is Nur Said when all of the documentation says that his name is Nur Omar. Alright, so that was it for me. Don't have anything else. Unless you got a little short topic to talk about?
Nope. I think that covers pretty much all the relevant recent stuff.
I mean, it didn't cover the debates and the climate stuff, but yeah, that's all stuff that I think has been beaten to death by every other news organization and anybody else talking about these sorts of things. Because I always try to put something a little extra that, at least from all of these stories, from what I can tell, I provided something that I haven't seen anybody else talking about. But, that's...
Yeah. I think they very low viewership, and most people are no longer interested in... Oh, I did hear news that there may be an upcoming LGBT townhouse or...
Oh, yeah, the Democrats are going to be doing an LGBT-centered one.
I don't...
Well, I think Buttigieg is going to win that one, or Buttigieg, or whatever.
Well, according to their own dogma or laws, you can't really discuss it unless you're part of that group. That means everybody else in the DNC can just shut their mouth.
And then it'll just be however many hours of just Pete Buttigieg talking about it, because he's the only one that could qualify.
Yep. I don't know. Hardly anybody even tuned in for the climate.
Oh, dude. I don't know why they decided to make that 7 hours long.
Yeah. So, yeah, I've got really nothing to add about either of those events. They're just pointless waste of time. DNC people yakking about nonsense.
Yep. So, so we've mentioned possibly moving to Mondays. I don't think I'm going to do that next week, but possibly the week after I will be moving sometime away from Tuesdays, which I think the day is Monday, right? Because Monday works with your schedule. So, so I don't think we're going to start next week on Monday. Let's see, wait. Actually, so yeah, we'll plan. So the first, we're going to talk about the Communist Manifesto, right? So let's plan on the, oh, sorry, not the first. It's actually going to be the 30th then. So we'll plan on moving to Monday on the 30th. So.
Okay.
And then we'll talk about the Communist Manifesto then. And so with that, thanks to anybody who did end up joining the stream and for hanging out with me. And I will see you next Tuesday.